Samsaradava Naladida Loka Janaya Karuna Gana Gana Tvam Paptasya Kalyana Gunaravasya Pande Guroshi Charanaravindam Vande Guroshi Charanaravindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarabindam Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Parichamadyam Narasura Sena Romanchakam Pasutaranga Bajo Pande Guroshi Charanaravindam Vande Guroshi Charanaravindam Vande Guroshi Charanaravindam Shivikrahara Dhananichanana Shingaratan Mandira Majinado Yuktasya Bhaktam Saniyunjatopi Pande Guroshi Charanaravindam Vande Guroshi Charanaravindam Vande Guroshi Charanaravindam Chaturvida Shri Bhagavat Prasado Swadrana Chiptim Hari Bhakta Sangha Kitaiva Chiptim Bhajata Sadeva Vande Guroshi Charanaravindam Vande Guroshi Charanaravindam Vande Guroshi Charanaravindam Shri Radhika Madhava Yorapara Madhurya Leela Gunarupa Namnam Pradikshana Swadana Lolupasya Vande Guroshi Charanaravindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam. Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam. Nikunja Yuno Ratikeli Siddhai Jaya Libi Yukti Rapekshanina. Tatarati Daksha Dati Valabhasya. Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindan. Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindan. Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindan. Shakshathadi Tvena Samasta Sastri Yuktastata Bhavyadeva Sadhi. Kinto Prabhuya Priya Eva Tasya. Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindan. Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindan. Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindan. Yasha Prasada Bhagavat Prasado. Yasha Prasadana Nagatikatopi. Gayam Stutvam Stasya Yasastri Sandam. Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindan. Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindan. Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindan. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namah. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pasyatya Desatarine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatari. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasade, Gaur Bhaktivinoda, Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Nityananda, Gaura Bhaktivinoda, Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasade, Gaur Bhaktivinoda, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Nityananda, Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasade, Gaur Bhaktivinoda, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasade, Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hey Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaurango, Nitai Gaurango, Bolo Nitai Gaurango, Nitai Gaurango, Nitai Gauranga, Bolo Gaura Hari, Bolo Gaura Hari, Gaura Hari. Hey Gaura Hare, Gaura Hare, Jaya Sachinandana, Jaya Sachinandana, Bolo Jaya Sachinandana, Jaya Sachinandana, Jaya Sachinandana Gora Hari. Bolo Gora Hari, Gora Hari. Gora Hare, Gora Hare. Oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hey bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, hey. Bolo Krishna, Krishna, hey. Krishna, Lakshman. Oh, Krishna, Lakshman. Krishna, Pahimam. Krishna, Pahimam. Ram Lakshman. Krishna, Pahimam. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna. Nitai Gora Haribol, Gora Haribol, Nitai Gora Haribol. Nitai Gaur Haribol, 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 Gaur Haribol. Nitai Gaur Haribol, Haribol, Gaur Haribol, Nitai Gaur Haribol. Nitai Gaura Premanandi Ki Jai. Shri Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Mahotsava Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Pararajagachahasta Tarasatara Shri Shri Shrimad His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Shri Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapura Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Ganga Maya Ki Jai. Jamuna Maya Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Oh, glorious to assembled. Oh, glorious to assembled devotees. Oh, glorious to assembled devotees. Glorious to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga. Glorious to Shri Chaitanya Mahotsab Ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vinda.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Yalad lad daine. Hiranyakashi Purvakshaha. Anyakashi Purvakshaha. Shilatankhana Kalae.
Shilatankhana Kalae.
Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha. Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha. Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha. Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha. Yato yato yami tato Narsimha. Yato yato yami tato Narsimha. Bahe Narsimha, Hridaye Narsimha. Bahe Narsimha, Hridaye Narsimha. Narasimha Masim Sharanam Prapade.
Narasimha Masim Sharanam Prapade.
Narasimha Madim Sharanam Prapade.
Narasimha Madim Sharanam Prapade.
Tavakar Kamal Bare Nakham Adbhuta Shringa Lalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringa Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare.
Tavakar Kamala Bare Naka Adbhuta Shringa Nalida Hiranyakashipu
Anubringa Keravariya Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare O Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Narsimha De Narsimha De Narsimha De Jaya Narsimha De Jaya Narsimha De Narsimha De Narsimha De Jaya Narsimha De Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev
Shingdev Bhagavan ki jai, Bhakti Prahlad Maharaj ki jai, Gaur Premanandi. Vrindaye Tulsidevai Priyaye Keshavaisya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Pradidevi Sachivatai Namo Namaha. Vrindaye Tulsidevai Priyaye Keshavaisya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Pradidevi Sachivatai Namo Namaha. Vrindaye Tulsidevai Priyaye Keshavaisya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Pradidevi Satyavratai Namo Namaha. Vrindaye Tulsidevi Maharani ki. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya Bhuti Vismata Bhaktina Smata Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru Varachari Devi Seswani Thank you. Jai. Go ahead.
Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Priyasi Namo Namaha
Tulasi Krishna Prayasi
Radha Krishna Yahi Abhilashi Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Yahi Abhilashi જે મારા શરણ લો તારા વંશ પૂર્ણ હો. કૃપા કરી કરો તારે વૃંદાવન વાસે. મોરાએ હિયા બિલાસ બિલાસ કુંજ દિયો વાસ. માયાને હેરીબો સદા જુગલ રૂપ રાશિ. હે નિવેદન ધરું સકીરાનું ગાતા કરો. સેવાધિકાર દિએ કરો નિંજ દાસી. बिना कृष्ण दासे कोई ये ना मोरा है. श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमी सदा ये ना भाषी. श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमी सदा ये ना भाषी. ज्ञानी कानी जापा पानी ब्रह्म हत्यादिकानी चा तानी तानी प्राणास्यन्ते प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे. कानी जापा पानी ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्राणास्यन्ते प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे. यानि कानि जापा पानी ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्राणास्यन्ते प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे. यानि कानि जापा पानी ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे. यानि कानि जापा पानी ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. जय तुलसी महारानी, जय तुलसी महारानी, जय तुलसी महारानी, जय तुलसी महारानी। जय भक्ति देवी, जय भक्ति देवी, जय भक्ति देवी, जय भक्ति देवी। जय वृंदा देवी, जय वृंदा देवी, जय वृंदा देवी, जय वृंदा देवी। निताई गौरंगा, निताई गौरंगा, निताई गौरंगा, गौर हरे। जय सच्चिनंदन, जय सच्चिनंदन, जय सच्चिनंदन, गौर हरे। निताई गौर हरि बोल, हरि बोल, हरि बोल, निताई गौर हरि बोल। जय जय प्रभुपाद, 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद। जय जय गुरुदेव, 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 जय जय गुरुदेव।
O Tulasi, beloved of Krishna, I bow before you and again. My desire is to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you has his wishes fulfilled. Bestowing your mercy upon him, you make him a resident of Vrindavana. My desire is that you will also grant me the residence in the pleasure groves of Shri Vrindavana Dham. Thus, within my vision, I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of the cowherd damsels of Vraja. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your maidservant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna prays, may always swim in love with Shri Radha and Govinda Tulsi Devi Maharani Ki Jai. Haribol, Haribol. There are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting holy names of the Lord that should be avoided, and they are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives to propagating holy names of the Lord. 2. To consider names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of names of Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature in pursuance of the Vedic version. 5. To consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna as imagination. 6. To give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in Vedas as fruitive activities or karmakanda. 9. To instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name. 10. To not have complete faith in the chanting of holy names and to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success, Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desire trees that can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vancha kalpa turubhyascha kripa sindubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha nama Vishnu padaya Krishna prestaya bhutali srimati bhaktivedanta swami tanami namaste saraswati devi guruvani chani nirvisesa sunyavadi paskatya desatarine. Shri Guru Pranama prayers. Ki Jai. Huh? Oh, Siksastakam. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Siksastakam. Lord Chaitanya's Siksastakam prayers. Cheto Darpana Marjanam Bhava Mahadevagni Nirvapanam Sherakairavya Chandrika Vitaranam Vidya Vaduhu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipradam Purnam Ritasvadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Chan Kirkanam Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarvasaktis Tatra Pitani Amitak Smarani Nakala Etadrisi Tava Kripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaivam Jasi Samiha Janina Anuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarurapi Sahisnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahare Adanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Va Jagadisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmanishware Bhavatad Bhakti Rahaitu Ki Twayi Ayinanda Tanujakinkaram Patitam Vishame Bhuvambudo Kripaya Tava Padapankaja Stita Tulisatvi Samvichintaya Nayanam Galadasurudaraya Vadanam Gadgadurudaya Jira Pulakarnisitam Vapu Kada Tavanamagrahane Bhavishyati Yugayitam Nimesena Chaksusapa Vrisayitam Sunyayitam Jagatsarvam Govinda Virahena Me Aslisyava Padaratam Pinastumam Adarsanam Ramahato Korotuva Yata Tata Vavidadatu Lampato Matprananatas Saeva Naparaha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Chaitanya Siksastakam Ki Jai. Nama Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tanaya Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatani. Shri Guru Pranama prayers Kijay. Om Aganyat Mirandasya Yananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Madhubhistam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Pandeham Shri Guru Shri Jataha Pachakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shah Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Ragunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Saidvaitam Savadutam Parichana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Nivitam Sha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namini Shri Varsavanavi Devi Daitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vigyana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhur Ujjvala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostate Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Varudapa Apasiddhanta Dvantaharine Namo Gaura Kishoraya Shakshadvaraya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padambujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachitananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaura Virbhava Pumestvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Savabhoma Shri Jaganatayate Namaha Vanshikapatirabhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Guru Truse Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakam Namami Bhakta Saktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostate Jayatam Suratur Pangur Mama Manda Matergati Matsarva Swapadambojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadumadaha Shimad Ratnagara Simhastanastito Shimad Radha Sila Govinda Devo Prastadi Bihisevamano Smarami Shiman Rasa Rasarambi Vamsiva Tatatastita Karsan Venuswaner Gopir Gopinatak Striyestuna Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhanustate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasani Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So today we're going to continue in the introduction to the Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is very exclusive knowledge as Prabhupada is giving, and we're going to pick up from approximately where we stopped yesterday, and that is the secret of Lord Chaitanya's incarnation. So that is explained. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu informs us that in every country and in every scripture there is some hint of love of God. But no one knows what love of Godhead actually is. The Vedic scriptures, however, are different in that they can direct the individual in the proper way to love God. Our other scriptures do not give information on how one can love God, nor do they actually define or describe what or who the Godhead actually is. Although they officially promote love of Godhead, they have no idea how to execute it. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives a practical demonstration of how to love God in a conjugal relationship. Taking the part of Srimati Radharani, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tried to love Krishna as Radharani loved him. Krishna was always amazed by Radharani's love. How does Radharani give me such pleasure? He would ask. In order to study Radharani, Krishna lived in her role and tried to understand himself. This is the secret of Lord Chaitanya's incarnation. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna, but he has taken the mood and role of Radharani to show us how to love Krishna. Thus the author writes in the 5th verse, this is Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord who is absorbed in Radharani's thoughts. This brings up the question of who Srimati Radharani is and what Radha Krishna is. Actually, Radha Krishna is the exchange of love, but not ordinary love. Krishna has immense potencies, of which 3 are principal: the internal, the external, and the marginal potencies. In the internal potency, there are 3 divisions: Samvit, Hladini, and Sandini, or in other words, eternity, bliss, and knowledge. The Hladini potency is Krishna's pleasure potency. All living entities have this pleasure-seeking potency, for all beings are trying to have pleasure. This is the very nature of the living entity. At present, we are trying to enjoy our pleasure potency by means of the body in the material condition. By bodily contact, we are attempting to derive pleasure from material sense objects, but we should not entertain the nonsensical idea that Krishna, who is always spiritual, also tries to seek pleasure on this material plane. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes the material universe as a non-permanent place full of miseries. Why then would he seek pleasure in matter? He is the Supersoul, the Supreme Spirit, and his pleasure is beyond the material conception. To learn how Krishna enjoys pleasure, we must study the first 9 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. And then we should study the 10th canto, in which Krishna's pleasure potency is displayed in his pastimes with Radharani and the damsels of Vraja. Unfortunately, unintelligent people turn at once to the sports of Krishna in the Dasama Skanda, or the 10th canto. Krishna's embracing Radharani or his dancing with the cowherd girls in the rasa dance are generally not understood by ordinary men because they consider these pastimes in the light of mundane lust. They foolishly think that Krishna is like themselves and that he embraces the gopis just as an ordinary man embraces a young girl. Such people, thus, become interested in Krishna because they think that his religion allows indulgence in sex. This is not Krishna Bhakti, love of Krishna, but Prakritya Sahajya, materialistic lust. To avoid such errors, we should understand that what Radha Krishna actually is. Radha and Krishna display their pastimes through Krishna's internal energy. The pleasure potency of Krishna's internal energy is a most difficult subject matter, and unless one understands what Krishna is, one cannot understand it. Krishna does not take any pleasure in this material world, but he has a pleasure potency. Because we are part and parcel of Krishna, the pleasure potency is within us also, but we are trying to exhibit that pleasure potency in matter. Krishna, however, does not make such a vain attempt. The object of Krishna's pleasure potency is Radharani. Krishna exhibits his potency as Radharani and then engages in loving affairs with her. In other words, Krishna does not take pleasure in this external energy, but exhibits his internal energy, his pleasure potency as Radharani, and then enjoys with her. Thus, Krishna manifests himself as Radharani in order to enjoy his internal pleasure potency. Of the many expansions, and incarnations of the Lord, this pleasure potency is the foremost and chief. It is not that Radharani is separate from Krishna. Radha is also Krishna, for there is no difference between the energy and the energetic. Without energy, there is no meaning to the energetic, and without the energetic, there's no energy. Similarly, without Radharani, there is no meaning to Krishna, and without Krishna, there is no meaning to Radha. Because of this, the Vaishnava philosophy first of all pays obeisances to and worships the internal pleasure potency of the Supreme Lord. Thus, the Lord and his potency are always referred to as Radha Krishna. Similarly, those who worship Narayana first of all utter the name of Lakshmi as Lakshmi Narayana. Similarly, those who worship Lord Rama first of all utter the name of Sita. In any case, Sita Rama, Radha Krishna, Lakshmi Narayana, the potency always comes first. Radha and Krishna are one, and when Krishna desires to enjoy pleasure, he manifests himself as Radharani. The spiritual exchange of love between Radha and Krishna is the actual display of Krishna's internal pleasure potency. Although we speak of when Krishna desires, just when he did desire, we cannot say. We only speak in this way because in conditioned life, we take it that everything has a beginning. However, in spiritual life, everything is absolute, and so there is neither beginning nor end. Yet, in order to understand that Radha and Krishna are one, and that they also become divided, the question, when, automatically comes to mind. When Krishna desired to enjoy his pleasure potency, he manifested himself in the separate form of Radharani, and when he wanted to understand himself through the agency of Radha, he united with Radharani, and that unification is called Lord Chaitanya. This is all explained by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraja in the 5th verse of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. In the next verse, the author further explains why Krishna assumed the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna desired to know the glory of Radha's love. Why is she so much in love with me? Krishna asked. What is my special qualification that attracts her so? And what is the actual way in which she loves me? It seems strange that Krishna, as the Supreme, should be attracted by anyone's love. A man searches after the love of a woman because he is imperfect. He lacks something. The love of a woman, that potency and pleasure, is absent in man, and therefore a man wants a woman. But this is not the case with Krishna, who is full in himself. Thus Krishna expressed surprise. Why am I attracted by Radharani? And when Radharani feels my love, what is she actually feeling? To taste the essence of that loving exchange, Krishna made his appearance in the same way that the moon appears on the horizon of the sea. Just as the moon was produced by the churning of the sea, by the churning of spiritual loving affairs, the moon of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared. Indeed, Lord Chaitanya's complexion was golden, just like the luster of the moon. Although this is figurative language, it conveys the meaning behind the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The full significance of his appearance will be explained in later chapters. After offering respects to Lord Chaitanya, Krishnadas Kaviraj begins offering them to Lord Nityananda in the 7th verse of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. The author explains that Lord Nityananda is Balarama, who is the origin of Mahavishnu. Krishna's first expansion is Balarama, a portion of whom is manifested as Sankarsana, who then expands as Pradyumna. In this way, so many expansions take place. Although there are many expansions, Lord Sri Krishna is the origin. As confirmed in the Brahma Samhita, he is like the original candle from which many thousands and millions of candles are lit. Although any number of candles can be lit, the original candle still retains its identity as the origin. In this way, Krishna expands himself into so many forms, and all these expansions are called Vishnu Tattva. Vishnu is a large light, and we are small lights, but all are expansions of Krishna. When it is necessary to create the material universes, Vishnu expands himself as Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu lies down in the causal ocean and breathes all the universes from his nostrils. Thus, from Mahavishnu and the causal ocean spring all the universes, and all these universes, including ours, float in the causal ocean. In this regard, there is the story of Vamana, who, when he took 3 steps, struck his foot through the covering of this universe. Water from the causal ocean flowed through the hole that his foot made, and it is said that the water became the river Ganges. Therefore, the Ganges is accepted as the most sacred water of Vishnu and is worshipped by all Hindus, from the Himalayas down to the Bay of Bengal. Mahavishnu is actually an expansion of Balarama, who is Krishna's first expansion, and in the Vrindavan pastimes, his brother, in the Maha mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The word Rama refers to Balarama. Since Lord Nityananda is Balarama, Rama also refers to Lord Nityananda. Thus, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama addresses not only Krishna and Balaram, but Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda as well. The subject matter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita primarily deals with what is beyond this material creation. The cosmic material expansion is called Maya, illusion, because it has no eternal existence. Because it is sometimes manifested and sometimes not, it is regarded as illusory. But beyond this temporary manifestation is a higher nature, as indicated in the Bhagavad Gita 8.20. Parastasmat bhavunyo vyakto vyaktat sanatana yasa sarvesu vibhutesu nasatsu na vinasyati. Translation: Yet there is another unmanifested nature which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and it is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. The material world has a manifested state, vyakta, and a potential unmanifested state, avyakta. The supreme nature is beyond both the manifested and the unmanifested material nature. This superior nature can be understood as the living force which is present in the bodies of all living creatures. The body itself is composed of inferior nature, matter, but it is the superior nature that is moving the body. The symptom of that superior nature is consciousness. Thus, in the spiritual world, where everything is composed of the superior nature, everything is conscious. In the material world, there are inanimate objects that are not conscious. But in the spiritual world, nothing is inanimate. There is a table. There is a table which is conscious. The land is conscious. The trees are conscious. Everything is conscious. So now we've heard 2 major things that are different between the material world and the spiritual. One is that there's no past, present, and future in the spiritual world. It's absolute. So there is what you call the eternal present. And time is not felt by its passage in the spiritual world. Time is realized by its non-passage, because there's the eternal present. The second major point is that everything in the spiritual world is conscious. Not everything is conscious in the material world. Trees are not conscious. Cars are not conscious. Buildings are not conscious. But in the spiritual world, everything is conscious, including the trees and the tables and the chairs. Everything is conscious. So you can just imagine what it's like to be in the spiritual world, where everything is conscious. You see, we're living in a world where most things are not conscious. Just a few things are conscious. But in the spiritual world, everything is conscious. Okay. It is not possible to imagine how far this material manifestation extends. In the material world, everything is calculated by imagination or by some imperfect method, meaning speculation. But the Vedic literatures give real information of what lies beyond the material universe. Since it is not possible to obtain information of anything beyond this material nature by experimental means, those who believe only in experimental knowledge may doubt the Vedic conclusions, for such people cannot even calculate how far this universe extends. That's a fact. They don't really know how far the universe extends. They know that they're able to see 6% of the visible universe, and that's it. Everything else they can't measure and they can't see. But everything else is explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam. That which is beyond our power of conception is called achintya, inconceivable. It is useless to argue or speculate about the inconceivable. If something is truly inconceivable, it is not subject to speculation or experimentation. Our energy is limited, and our sense perception is limited. Therefore, we must rely on the Vedic conclusions regarding that subject matter, which is inconceivable. Knowledge of the superior nature must simply be accepted without argument. How is it possible to argue about something in which we have no access? The method for understanding transcendental subject matter is given by Lord Krishna himself in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna tells Arjuna at the beginning of the 4th chapter, Imam vivasvate yogam proktavam aham avyayam vivaswan manave prahu manur ikshvakave bravit. I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivaswan, and Vivaswan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku. This is the 4th chapter, 1st verse of Bhagavad Gita. This is the method of parampara or disciplic succession. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam explains that Krishna imparted knowledge into the heart of Brahma, the first created being within the universe. Brahma imparted those lessons to his disciple Narada, and Narada imparted that knowledge to his disciple Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva imparted it to Madhavacharya, and from Madhavacharya the knowledge came down to Madhavendra Puri, and then Ishwara Puri, and from him, Ishwara Puri, to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Ishwara Puri was Lord Chaitanya's guru. One may ask that if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, then why did he need a spiritual master? Of course, he did not need a spiritual master, but because he was playing the role of Acharya, one who teaches by example, he accepted a spiritual master. Even Krishna himself accepted a spiritual master, for that is the system. In this way, the Lord sets the example for all persons. We should not think, however, that the Lord takes a spiritual master because he is in want of knowledge. He is simply stressing the importance of accepting the disciplic succession. The knowledge taught in that disciplic succession actually comes from the Lord himself, and if the knowledge descends unbroken, it is perfect. Although we may not be in touch with the original personality who first imparted the knowledge, we may receive the same knowledge through the process of transmission, or the process of Guru Parampara. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that Krishna, the Absolute Truth, the personality Godhead, transmitted transcendental knowledge into the heart of Brahma. This, then, is one way knowledge is received, through the heart. Thus, there are two processes by which one may receive knowledge. One depends directly on the Supreme Personality Godhead, who is situated as the Supersoul within the heart of all living entities, and the other depends upon the Guru, or the spiritual master, who is an expansion of Krishna. Thus, Krishna transmits information both from within and from without. We simply have to receive it. If knowledge is received in this way, it doesn't matter whether it is inconceivable or not. Now, this is a third major point, that is, the scientists cannot actually measure the universe. They hardly measure 6% of it, and even that they don't measure properly. Right? So, therefore, how can they understand anything about what's beyond the universe, which is the spiritual world? Therefore, they must accept Vedic knowledge because they have no other means of accessing the spiritual world and spiritual reality, which is much greater than the material reality. And they have no way of measuring it. And they never will. They never will. So, therefore, the Guru Parampara that begins with Krishna and coming down till today through Srila Prabhupada is the second way we can understand who Krishna is. The first way is Krishna can instruct us directly through the heart. And he did that to Brahma. But the other way is we can be instructed of the original knowledge that Krishna gave Brahma through the disciplic succession that we have and coming through Srila Prabhupada. Okay. So that's three things now that are different in this material world compared to the spiritual world. In Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a great deal of information given about the Vaikuntha planetary systems which are beyond the material universe. Similarly, a great deal of inconceivable information is given in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Any attempt to arrive at this information through experimental knowledge will fail. The knowledge simply has to be accepted. According to the Vedic method, sabda, or transcendental sound, is regarded as evidence. Sound is very important in Vedic understanding, for if it is pure, it is accepted as authoritative. Even in the material world, we accept a great deal of information sent thousands of miles by telephone or radio. In this way, we also accept sound as evidence in our daily lives. Although we cannot see the informant, we accept this information as valid on the basis of sound vibration. On the basis of sound. Sound vibration, then, is very important in the transmission of Vedic knowledge. Well, look, were you present in Turkey when there was the earthquake? No. You heard about it. I heard about it. We don't know for sure if it happened, but we're accepting the sound vibration coming from Turkey as fact, you see. So many things, most things, we accept as fact because of sound transmission, not because we experienced it, right? Now, sometimes people lie. There's like, they say we went to the moon, right? So, but most people accepted it because they accept sound vibration, you see. So we have to differentiate between transcendental sound and mundane sound. That is very important in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, we have the triangle of verification. I won't go over it again, but you know what that is. The Vedas inform us that beyond this cosmic manifestation, there are extensive planets in the spiritual sky. This material manifestation is regarded as only a small portion of the total creation. Yeah, and the scientists hardly understand anything about the material creation, right? The material manifestation includes not only this universe, but innumerable others as well. But all of the material universes combined constitute only 1/4 of the total creation. The remaining 3/4 is situated in the spiritual sky. In that sky, innumerable planets float, and these are called Vaikuntha Lokas. In every Vaikuntha Loka, Narayana presides with his 4 expansions, Sankarsan, Pradumna, Aniruddha, and Vasudeva. This Sankarsan states Krishna Das Kaviraj in the 8th verse of the Chaitanya Charitamrita is Lord Nityananda. Okay. So, here we see that there's not one material universe. There are millions and millions of material universes, and all of them put together are only 1/4 of the domain of Krishna. The other 3/4, nobody has knowledge of that except Krishna himself and his expansions. Therefore, we must accept Vedic knowledge offered by the Parampara system. Otherwise, there's no other way we could find out about the reality of Krishna consciousness. As stated before, the material universes are manifested by the Lord in the form of Mahavishnu. Just as a husband and wife combine to beget offspring, Mahavishnu combines with his wife Maya, or material nature. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 14.4, where Krishna says, Sarvayoni Sukunteya Murtaye Sambhavanti Va Ya Tasam Brahma Mahadyonir Aham Bijapada Pita. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving father. Vishnu impregnates Maya, the material nature, simply by glancing at her. This is the spiritual method. Materially, we are limited to impregnating by only one particular part of our body, but the Supreme Lord, Krishna or Mahavishnu, can impregnate by any part of his body. Simply by glancing, the Lord can conceive countless living entities in the womb of material nature. The Brahma Samhita confirms that the spiritual body of the Supreme Lord is so powerful that any part of his body can perform the functions of any other part. Angani yasya sakalandriya rittimanti pasyanti panti kalyanti chiram jaganti ananda chinmaya sadujvala vigrahasya govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. So that's Brahma Samhita. I think it's the 6th verse. The Brahma Samhita confirms that the spiritual body of the Supreme Lord is so powerful that any part of his body can perform the functions of any other part. We can touch only with our hands or skin, but Krishna can touch just by glancing. We can see only with our eyes. We cannot touch or smell with them. Krishna, however, can smell and can also eat with his eyes. When food is offered to Krishna, we do not see him eating, but he eats simply by glancing at the food. We cannot imagine how things work in the spiritual world, where everything is spiritual. It is not that Krishna does not eat, or that we imagine that he eats. He actually eats, but his eating is different from ours. Our eating process will be similar to his when we are completely on the spiritual platform. On that platform, every part of the body can act on behalf of any other part. So this is a 4th amazing difference between the material world and the spiritual world. And when we attain our spiritual body, we'll have the same facilities of using any part of our body to do the action of any of our senses. That's unbelievable, but true. Vishnu does not require anything in order to create. He does not require the goddess Lakshmi in order to give birth to Brahma, for Brahma is born from a lotus flower that grows from the navel of Vishnu. The goddess Lakshmi sits at the feet of Vishnu and serves him. In this material world, sex is required to produce children, but in the spiritual world, a man can produce as many children as he likes without having to take help from his wife. Wow, that's a relief for women. So there is no sex there, because we have no experience with spiritual energy. We think that Brahma's birth from the navel of Vishnu is simply a fictional story. We are not aware that spiritual energy is so powerful that it can do anything and everything. Material energy is dependent on certain laws, but spiritual energy is fully independent. Number 5 difference between the material world and the spiritual world, you see. Now we're learning a lot in this introduction about the difference between the spiritual and material worlds. Countless universes reside like seeds within the skin pores of Mahavishnu, and when he exhales, they are all manifested in the material world. In the material world, we have no experience of such a thing, but we do experience a perverted reflection in the phenomenon of perspiration. We cannot imagine, however, the duration of one breath of Mahavishnu, for within one breath all the universes are created and annihilated. This is stated in the Brahma Samhita. Lord Brahma lives only for the duration of one breath, and according to time scale, 4,320,000,000,000 years constitute only 12 hours for Brahma, and Brahma lives 100 of his years. Yet the whole life of Brahma is contained within one breath of Mahavishnu. Thus, it is not possible for us to imagine the breathing power of Mahavishnu, who is but a partial manifestation of Lord Nityananda. This, the author of the Chaitanya Charitamrita explains in the 9th verse. We'll go a little bit more. In the 10th and 11th verses, so see, this introduction is introducing the 1st to 14th verses of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. You can see how fully, intense the information is in the first 14 verses of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And the rest of the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita is to elaborate with great detail on those 14 verses. In the 10th and 11th verses, Krishnadas Kaviraja describes Garbhodakshaya Vishnu and Shirodakshaya Vishnu, successive plenary expansions of Mahavishnu. Brahma appears upon a lotus flower growing from the navel of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and within the stem of that lotus are so many planetary systems. Then Brahma creates the whole human society. He doesn't actually create it. What he does is he awakens them. They're already existing. They're created by Krishna. But he awakens them from their deep sleep, and then they assume their positions again according to their previous karma. Then Brahma creates the whole of human society, animal society, everything. Shirodakshaya Vishnu lies on the milk ocean within the universe, of which he is the controller and maintainer. So in the material universe, Shirodakshaya Vishnu has a planet, and it's in the middle of an ocean of milk. The Devas can never see Shirodakshaya Vishnu, but they can communicate with him through sound. And they come and they chant the Purusha Shukta prayers and other prayers like that to catch the attention of the Lord as Shirodakshaya Vishnu, and then he can communicate with them. Whenever they're in trouble, they usually come and ask him for help. Thus, Brahma is the creator, Vishnu is the maintainer, and when the time for annihilation arrives, Shiva will finish everything. So when it says Brahma is the creator, he's not the primary creator, he's a secondary creator. He doesn't create the living entities, he wakes them up from their slumber. So there's more detail on that coming when we go deeper into the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And also, that detail is there in the 3rd canto that we're reading now. In the first 11 verses of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami thus discusses Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Shri Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Lord Nityananda as Balarama, the first expansion of Krishna. Then in the 12th and 13th verses, he describes Advaitacharya, who is another principal associate of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and an incarnation of Mahavishnu. Thus, Advaitacharya is also the Lord, or more precisely, an expansion of the Lord. The word Advaita means non-dual, and his name is such because he is non-different from the Supreme Lord. He is also called Acharya, teacher, because he disseminated Krishna consciousness. In this way, he is just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Although Lord Chaitanya is Sri Krishna himself, he appeared as a devotee to teach people in general how to love Krishna. Similarly, although Advaitacharya is the Lord, he appeared just to distribute the knowledge of Krishna consciousness. Thus, he is also the Lord incarnated as a devotee. So now it's around 7 o'clock. I usually stop at 7 o'clock. But are you working today or not working today? You're going to work? Yeah. All right, so we'll stop and continue tomorrow. And there's not much more. There's only a page and a half. Actually, there's only one page left. Should I read it? Okay. In the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, Krishna is manifested in 5 different features, known as the Pancha Tattva, to whom Sri Krishna Das Kaviraja offers his obeisances in the 14th verse of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishna and his associates appear as devotees of the Supreme Lord in the form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, Sri Advaita Charya, Sri Gadadhar Prabhu, and Srivas Pandita. In all cases, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the source of energy for all his devotees. Since this is the case, if we take shelter of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for the successful execution of Krishna consciousness, we are sure to have mercy upon, we are sure to make progress. In a devotional song, Narottam Das Thakura sings, "My dear Lord Chaitanya, please have mercy upon me. There is no one who is as merciful as you. My plea is most urgent because your mission is to deliver all fallen souls, and no one is more fallen than I. Therefore, I beg priority." Very nice prayer. With verse 15, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami begins offering his obeisances directly to Krishna himself. Krishnadas Kaviraj was an inhabitant of Vrindavana and a great devotee. He had been living with his family in Katwa, a small town in the district of Burdwan in Bengal. He worshipped Radha Krishna with his family, and once, when there was some misunderstanding among his family members about devotional service, he was advised by Nityananda Prabhu in a dream to leave home and go to Vrindavana. Although he was very old, he started out that very night and went to live in Vrindavana. While he was there, he met some of the Goswamis, principal disciples of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was requested to write the Chaitanya Charitamrita. He was like 94 years old. I think 94 or 96 when he was asked to write this massive Chaitanya Charitamrita. And he had to get the permission from the Goswamis, and he had to get their help because they had the information. And he had to also get the direct blessing of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to get the energy to do it. The man's 96 years old, right? And look how big the book is, right? It was not an easy task for him to do, but he was able to do it because he was given the energy by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and who is the source of all energies. He was requested to write the Chaitanya Charitamrita by the devotees of Vrindavana. Although he began this work at a very old age, by the grace of Lord Chaitanya, he finished it. Today it remains the most authoritative book on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy and life. There are other books about Lord Chaitanya written by great devotees, but not as detailed in the philosophical teachings of the Lord as the Chaitanya Charitamrita. This has tremendous philosophical, depth to it. Much more. The others are more concerned about the pastimes. There are pastimes in this Chaitanya Charitamrita, but there's huge amount of philosophical knowledge in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. When Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was living in Vrindavan, there were not very many temples. At that time, the 3 principal temples were those of Madan Mohan, Govindaji, and Gopinath. As a resident of Vrindavana, Krishnadas Kaviraj offers his respects to the deities in these temples and requests God's favor. My progress in spiritual life is very slow, so I am asking your help. In the 15th verse of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas offers his obeisances to Madan Mohana Vigraha, the deity who can help us progress in Krishna consciousness. In the execution of Krishna consciousness, our first business is to know Krishna and our relationship with him. To know Krishna is to know oneself, and to know oneself is to know one's relationship with Krishna. Since this relationship can be learned by worshipping the Madan Mohan Vigraha, Krishnadas Kaviraj first establishes his relationship with him. So this is very important. To know Krishna means to know oneself, and to know oneself means that you know Krishna. Very important point. We can only understand who we are in relationship to Krishna. We will never understand who we really are in relationship to XYZ. Let's say crazy Joe Biden. You try and understand yourself in relationship to him, you'll never understand anything. Or Trump, or anybody, any mundane person, you'll never really fully understand who you are. But your relationship with Krishna will give you full understanding of who you actually are. You're the eternal servant of the Lord. That's who you are. You're not the servant of the president, or the servant of the vice president, or the servant of this or that. We are all eternally the servant of Krishna. That's who we really are. When this is established, in the 16th verse, Krishnadas offers his obeisances to the functional deity, Govinda. The Govinda deity is called the functional deity because he shows us how to serve Radha and Krishna. The Madan Mohan deity simply establishes that I am your eternal servant. We understand who we are. We're the eternal servant, right? With Govinda, however, there's actual acceptance of service. Govinda resides eternally in Vrindavana. In the spiritual world of Vrindavana, the buildings are made of touchstone. The cows are known as Surabhi cows, givers of abundant milk, and the trees are known as wish-fulfilling trees, for they yield whatever one desires. In Vrindavana, Krishna herds the Surabhi cows, and he is worshipped by hundreds and thousands of gopis, cowherd girls, who are all goddesses of fortune. When Krishna descends to the material world, this same Vrindavana descends with him, just as an entourage accompanies an important personage. Because when Krishna comes, his land also comes. Vrindavana is considered to exist beyond the material world. Therefore, devotees take shelter of the Vrindavana in India, for it is considered to be a replica of the original Vrindavana. Although one may complain that no kalpavriksha, wish-fulfilling trees, exist there, when the Goswamis were there, kalpavriksha were present. It is not that one can simply go to such a tree and make demands. One must first become a devotee. The Goswamis would live under a tree for one night only, and the trees would satisfy all their desires. For the common man, this may all seem very wonderful, but as one makes progress in devotional service, all this can be realized. Vrindavana is actually experienced as it is by persons who have stopped trying to derive pleasure from material enjoyment. When will my mind become cleansed of all hankering for material enjoyment, so I will be able to see Vrindavana? One great devotee asks, the more Krishna consciousness we become, and the more we advance, the more everything is revealed as spiritual. Thus, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami considered the Vrindavana in India to be as good as the Vrindavana in the spiritual sky. And in the 16th verse of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he describes Radharani and Krishna as seated beneath a wish-fulfilling tree in Vrindavana on a throne decorated with valuable jewels. There, Krishna's dear gopi friends serve Radha and Krishna by singing, dancing, offering betel nuts and refreshments, and decorating their lordships with flowers. Even today in India, people decorate swinging thrones and recreate this scene during the month of July, August. That's when we'd have No. We have the swing. Julan. Yeah. Even today in India, people decorate swinging thrones and recreate this scene during the month of July, August. Generally, at that time, people go to Vrindavana to offer their respects to the deities there. Finally, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami offers his blessings to his readers in the name of the Gopinatha deity, who is Krishna as master and proprietor of the gopis. When Krishna played upon his flute, all the gopis or cowherd girls were attracted by the sound and left their household duties. And when they came to him, he danced with them. These activities are all described in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. These gopis were childhood friends of Krishna, and many were married. For in India, the girls are generally married by the age of 12. The boys, however, are not married before 18. So Krishna, who was 15 or 16 at the time, was not married. Nonetheless, he called these girls from their homes and invited them to dance with him. That dance is called the Rasa Leela dance, and it is the most elevated of all the Vrindavana pastimes. Krishna is therefore called Gopinatha because he is the beloved master of the gopis. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami petitions the blessings of Lord Gopinatha. May that Gopinatha, the master of the gopis, Krishna, bless you. May you become blessed by Gopinatha. The author of the Chaitanya Charitamrita prays that just as Krishna attracted the gopis by the sweet sound of his flute, he will also attract the reader's mind by that transcendental vibration. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Bol. Are there any questions? Yes.
What are Hare Krishna Maharaj?
Hari Bol.
What are Krishna's 5 different futures?
5 different features? Features. Okay. Well, let me try and answer it. Did you hear them when we were reading? Yes? You remember any of them? Okay. No, it's called Panchatattva, the 5 features of the Lord. There's Krishna, there's Balaram, there's Advaitacharya or Mahavishnu, there's Radharani, and there's Narada Muni or his pure devotees. So in other words, that means there's Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there's his first expansion, Lord Balaram, there's his first Vishnu, Mahavishnu expansion, Advaitacharya. Then there's his internal energy, Srimati Radharani, represented by Gadadhar Pandit. And then there is his pure devotee, Narada Muni, who is expanded energy of living entities. Okay? So that's called Panchatattva, 5 expansions of the Lord. So all of that put together is called Godhead. If you want to know what Godhead means, it means that all these 5 aspects of the Lord put together represents the Godhead. Yeah, because Narada Muni is there, right? So that means all the living entities also. All of that put together is Godhead. It's not just one person. It's the what you would call the synthesis of all those living entities with Krishna and the beginning of it all and the source of everything is called Godhead. In other words, you don't really understand God until you understand the Godhead. Right. Okay? Any other questions? That's a good question. Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Okay, she wants the microphone. You have to lift this. What?
Your microphone is different.
Oh, okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaji. I know about the Krishna, God Ram, but I come here in ISKCON here in this temple, then I know, listen the name of Chaitanya Prabhu, so I was very less aware about that Chaitanya Prabhu, what's the role of Chaitanya Prabhu, as a Krishna is a role as a Natkhat Krishna, an entire life, and a Ram is a sincere brother, sincere son, as a famous as a Ram. But I know very less about the Chaitanya, or I think I don't know about the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I want to know about a few lines, 1-2 sentences about the Chaitanya Prabhu. So by that, I want to know. Yeah.
Krishna himself united with Radharani. Radha and Krishna together. And then what we explained today is why they united. Because Krishna realized that although Radharani is his own internal energy, and she's a personification, and she's not different than Krishna, but yet she was experiencing ecstasies that were being prompted by Krishna himself. There was some things in Krishna that was making her very, very ecstatic, and Krishna didn't understand what it was. So he had to accept her position to understand what it was in him that was giving her so much ecstasy. You understand? See, now, in the material world, you have a husband and a wife. Now, oftentimes, husband and wife don't understand each other. They think they understand each other in the beginning when they get married. They think, oh, this person is like this, and this lady is like that. But after some time, they realize, whoa, wait a minute, so big differences between us. And oftentimes nowadays, it ends up in divorce, right? Why? Because they're two different individuals. And over time, they can have different understandings of things and argue about it. And sometimes it becomes so much arguing, they decide to divorce. Now, in the case of Krishna, Radharani is Krishna also. But he saw that she was having more ecstasy than he was having. Now, therefore, he had to take her position to understand what it was in him that was giving her so much ecstasy. So he assumed the form of Lord Chaitanya, which is the combination of Radha and Krishna. And now he could act as a devotee of Krishna and begin to feel the emotions and the perceptions of Radharani. Now, try and explain this to a materialistic person, they can't understand it. It's way beyond their understanding. But devotees can understand this because everything is absolute in the spiritual world. That's the key. Everything is absolute. Nothing is absolute in the material world except death. That's absolute. But everything else is not. Everything seems to be relative, right? But in the spiritual world, everything is absolute. So there's no difference between Krishna and Radharani. But yet, they can act as two persons and engage in all kinds of transcendental pastimes. So, but then Krishna, engaging in those pastimes, realized that she was experiencing something that was more intense than what he was experiencing. So in order to understand what that was, he took her position and assumed the form of Lord Chaitanya, who is the combination of Radha and Krishna. And then he was able to experience Radharani's ecstasies of love of Krishna that way.
So, Maharaji, in Ram avatar, in Krishna avatar, God have many enemies. But in Chaitanya avatar, there are no enemies. Is only for devotee. Is means a conclusion of this.
He had some people that didn't accept him. There was no fighting. Like Lord Ramachandra, there's fighting. Krishna, there's fighting. Lord Chaitanya, there was no fighting at all. But he had people that didn't follow him or were against him, right? But he avoided problems like that. And he was only concerned with helping everyone become Krishna conscious. He didn't recognize this one's an enemy, this one's a friend. He saw everybody as a spirit soul. And he tried to help everyone become Krishna conscious by doing Harinam Sankirtan and massive Harinam Sankirtan and massive food, prasadam distribution. He didn't even preach in public. He only preached to his devotees in private. He would go out and do massive Sankirtan, hundreds and thousands of people chanting and distributing huge amount of prasadam. See? That's the way he spread the movement.
Maharaj, in the Chaitanya avatar, there's any Krishna avatar, there's some magics happens. And
Magic?
in Ram,
Did you say magic?
in Krishna avatar, yeah, something happens, means some means a big enemies, and Krishna is a very small kid face the things. In Ram avatar, Hanumanji is a very good friend and has done very help. But is in Chaitanya avatar, so is there any things by that?
There are many miracles in Lord Chaitanya's
Okay.
pastimes, and we'll hear them as we go into the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Many, many miracles.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
In material world, is our consciousness our intelligence or our super soul? The Paramatma in our super soul. How do we identify our consciousness?
Well, the source of the consciousness is the soul. And the soul is part and parcel of Krishna, right?
Yeah.
So we have this, let's say, special relationship with Krishna. And also Krishna is present as super soul next to us. So therefore, what is your question again?
So, how do we identify consciousness in the material world?
Well, that's the whole problem. We are trying to purify our consciousness that's contaminated. Our consciousness is concerned with sense gratification. What we want to do is sense purification. Then we can understand pure consciousness. Right now, everything is mixed. And because of that, we have trouble. We have difficulties in life. When we become fully Krishna conscious, all those troubles go away. They might still be there, but they don't affect us anymore. Because whatever happens, we continue our service in Krishna's for Krishna and the association of devotees. If you give up the association of devotees, then your consciousness gets more and more corrupted. If you keep the association of devotees and devotional service, you purify your consciousness. So, consciousness purified is completely different than consciousness contaminated. Consciousness is purified, then you come to the level of Lord Chaitanya. He doesn't recognize enemies. He doesn't become his enemy's enemy. He is treating people with respect all the time, even his enemies. And he's very merciful, most merciful person. Therefore, I'm glad you asked your question today, because there's no war in Chaitanya's pastime. There's only love. You see, so this is what is very, let's say, attractive about Lord Chaitanya. He's very merciful, full of ecstatic transcendental pastimes with his devotees, and basically that's what Krishna consciousness movement is all about. We're in Lord Chaitanya's movement. When you go out on Sankirtan, you're going out and chanting the holy names of the Lord. Lord Chaitanya's mood of transcendental love is, you're going to experience it. You see, because that's what the Sankirtan party is about. It's experiencing transcendental love for Radha and Krishna. You see, so this is different. There's no war involved in it. There's transcendental loving experiences, and they get better and better. They keep getting more and more and better, until you realize that, wait a minute, I want this all the time. I don't want to stop this. I want this all the time. You know. So, yeah, those are good questions. Your consciousness becomes purified. Then what happens there? There's two things. Either you get direct instructions from Krishna through the heart, or you're receiving direct instructions every day through the Guru Parampara. Both ways you're getting the right information that keeps you on track of what you would call Krishna purification rather than sense gratification. That's the difference between pure consciousness and unclean consciousness. Unclean consciousness, you have mixed desires, sometimes sense gratification and sometimes Krishna consciousness. When you have your consciousness is purified, it's all Krishna consciousness. You don't even think once about sense gratification. See? And then you're a liberated person. You're not affected by whatever happens in the material world. You just continue your devotional service without any fear or anxiety. Yeah. Okay, we'll stop right there. Thank you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Who is going to sing? You want to sing? Yeah. Is it your wedding? Okay, just 1 minute.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Bandho Mui Savadana Mate Bandho Mui Savadana Mate Jahara Prasade Bai Ebhavatoriya Jai Krishna Prapti কৃষ্ণ প্রাপ্তি হয় যাহা হইতে गुरुमुख पद्मावक्य चितित करियाक्या अरना खोरी हो माने आशा श्री गुरु चराने रति ऐसे उत्तमा गति जय प्रसादे पूरे सर्व आशा जय प्रसादे पूरे सर्व आशा चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित प्रेमा भक्ति जहा होते अविद्या विनाश जाते प्रेमा भक्ति जहा होते अविद्या विनाश जाते वेद गाय जहरा चरितो वेद गाय जहरा चरितो श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आदाम जनार बंधु श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आदाम जनार बंधु लोकेनाथ लोकेरा जीवाना लोकेनाथ लोकेरा जीवाना हा हा प्रभु करो दया देहो मोरे पादा छाया हा हा प्रभु करो दया देहो मोरे पादा छाया एबे जास गोशुक त्रिभुवाना श्रीला प्रभुपाद पतिता पवाना जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
his master is the only way to maintain pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus feet. His ocean mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord of Master devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. We take shelter of lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada.